This video is about the Apalachicola River, a river that was disturbed by dredging and disposal during a navigation project. The sandbars are much larger than they were historically, and we explore the recovery and restoration of sandbars since this disturbance. The Apalachicola River is located in the panhandle of Florida on the downstream end of the ACF, or the Apalachicola Chattahoochee Flint drainage basin, with headwaters in Georgia and Alabama. Most of our work was done on the upper Apalachicola, just south of the town of Blountstown. Keeping the area in good condition is important because the upper Apalachicola is one of the nation's most important biodiversity hotspots. For nearly 50 years, the Corps of Engineers dredged the river in the Florida Panhandle, trying to make it navigable. The yellow arrows are pointing at dredge boats on an aerial photo taken in 1994. The Corps placed some of the dredged material on the floodplain, as you can see from these locally hilly or higher elevation areas. And they also placed some dredged material on channel margins, including its sandbars. Maintenance was costly, and the amount of water commerce or navigation traffic was small. Ultimately, the Corps ended dredging the river in 2002. The Corps of Engineers removed many millions of cubic meters of sand and more than 100,000 snags from the river to create a navigable channel. What happened after this disturbance ended? One legacy of this disturbance was larger sandbars. Here we compare two photos at the same flow level, one before dredging in 1941 and another after dredging ended in 2017. In another video, we explained that these larger bars are due to lower water levels from drought and degradation and to disposal of dredged material on the bars. These sandbars are very large, and the large quantities of loose sand can damage habitats for threatened and endangered species in this hotspot of biodiversity. Since dredging for the navigation channel stopped in 2002, many years later we are left wondering how to help a sandbar. By helping a sandbar, we mean having it shrink and stabilize with vegetation, as was the case in the past. There are two ways to help. The first step to help the sandbar is to stop activities that damage the river, such as dredging, snag removal, or intensive development. When dredging ended, the river began passive recovery. The idea is to let nature heal without doing more damage. Recovery is helped by maintaining a forested river corridor. Another way to help the river is through active river restoration projects grounded in the science of the river. From satellite images, we see that the Apalachicola River floodplain is largely forested. We see that the land cover is mostly forested wetlands and that large portions of the river are conservation areas. The state of Florida and conservation programs have helped floodplain lands and have worked with landowners to have conservation easements. Not only does purchase of floodplain lands keep people from building in areas that floods, but it allows forests to build more forest and to help in restoring the damage. Through passive recovery over time, the seeds from trees will spread by wind and water and slowly recolonize exposed land with new trees. This photo shows some newer young willows nearby old willows. Here on a sandbar, the pattern seems dependent on topography, but the established forest provides seeds that fosters plant growth. By making detailed maps of the river since dredging ended, we have documented how the river is slowly recovering in this way. Here you can see how the river is changing over time, eroding in some areas and gaining in others, with an overall increase in the area of forest. Over time, with colonization of new vegetation, the tree line will slowly change and the size of the sandbar will shrink. Overall, we found that approximately 166 hectares of forest disappeared during the dredging period of the navigation project, but that about 18% recovered since dredging stopped. Here you can see the shorter orange bar indicates passive recovery in the period from 2005 to 2015. So you can help the sandbars and the passive recovery process by understanding more about the disturbances and supporting land conservation programs through your vote. You can also enjoy nature, keeping away from trampling or riding on plants, seedlings, and grasses. Although passive recovery works, it takes time. Another method to help the sandbars is active river restoration. Stabilizing bars with vegetation improves the aquatic habitat. Because the most common or dominant pioneer plants are black willow and poplar, planting seedlings can help the rate of recovery. For doing active restoration, we focus some of our attention on these three large bars south of Blountstown and Bristol. We picked the sandbars for plantings that were the largest and not healing naturally. One reason why these bars are larger than most is because they were disposal sites during the navigation project. They have not shrunk from passive recovery. One amazing feature about willows and other species is that we can harvest willows to make more willows. Restoration begins with selecting healthy growing willow trees from which to take cuttings. We bring loppers and call these cuttings stakes. It is best to cut new growth or green branches and not to cut more than 40% of any given tree. Nurseryman and organic farmer Bruce Mathis has had some experience with this. He suggested that we cut willow stakes about a ½ inch in diameter from the green olive colored new growth. We stripped the stakes and removed branches and leaves and made hundreds of cuttings that we soaked so they could grow rootlets for later plantings. If soaked in water buckets for a week or more, then the cuttings will grow rootlets and new leaves. After the stakes had roots, we sorted, counted, tagged, and mapped where we planted. Tags helped us determine which were planted from stakes versus any plants that might grow naturally from passive recovery. We dug holes with soil borers and tagged our plants with survey tape. We also got help from volunteers. So far, we have made thousands of plantings in varied locations, including lower and higher spots with herbaceous vegetation. There are varied microhabitats on the sandbars. Here are some examples of sites that we selected for planting. Through regular monitoring by field visits and GPS, as well as map analysis, we learned more about what worked and did not work. As is evident from our tag and the cut on the stake, some plantings done early in the season survived until later in the season and even the next season. And these two ways, passive recovery and active restoration, are ways to help a sandbar. Thanks for listening to our story. This project could not have been done without our sponsor, the EPA Gulf of Mexico program, and the people who helped with this video.